Here is a statistic that I want you to sit with for a moment. Research published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior found that only 65% of heterosexual women consistently reach orgasm during partnered sex. Compare that to 95% of heterosexual men. That is a gap of 30 percentage points. And it has a name in the scientific literature. It's called the orgasm gap. And it is not caused by biology. It is not caused by women being harder to please. It is not a mystery. It is caused by a lack of information. Specifically, a lack of understanding of female anatomy, the specific mechanics of arousal, and what the science actually says about positioning, angle, and what truly works. So today we are going to fix that. I'm going to walk you through 5 scientifically validated sex positions that are grounded in anatomical research, biomechanics, and decades of sexual health literature. And I'm going to explain exactly why each position works the way it does, not just that it works. Because understanding the mechanism is what actually changes your intimate experience. Whether you are a woman wanting to experience more consistent pleasure, or a partner who genuinely wants to understand how your body works together, this video is for you. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Rosy Adams, sexual health educator specialist and certified sex therapist with more than 2 decades of clinical and educational experience. I've worked extensively with individuals and couples exploring the full spectrum of sexual wellness, from addressing specific concerns about arousal and orgasm to rebuilding physical connection after life transitions, medical changes, or periods of disconnection. I created this educational content because there is an enormous amount of misinformation about sexual positions, physiology, and pleasure, and far too much silence and shame around actually discussing what works. People deserve accurate, medically grounded information about their own bodies. That is what I'm here to provide. Evidence-based, judgment-free education that serves your health, your confidence, and your relationships. If you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. I release new educational content regularly, covering sexual health science, anatomy, communication, and couples wellness from a clinical perspective grounded in current research. Now, let's address why positioning matters so profoundly and what the research actually tells us about which positions increase pleasure and orgasmic response for women. Before we can talk about specific positions, we need to understand why positioning matters at all. And this comes down to 3 fundamental principles: anatomy, angle, and accessibility. First, anatomy that has been systematically misunderstood and undersold. For most of recorded medical history, female sexual anatomy was either largely ignored or fundamentally misrepresented. The clitoris, the primary organ of female sexual pleasure, was not fully mapped in 3-dimensional detail until 2005 when Australian urologist Dr. Helen O'Connell published landmark research using advanced MRI imaging. What Dr. O'Connell revealed, and what medical science has increasingly validated, is that the clitoris is not a small external button. It is a large, complex, sophisticated internal structure. The external portion, the glans, is only the visible portion. The full clitoral body extends internally with 2 crura, or legs, that wrap around the vaginal canal and 2 vestibular bulbs positioned on either side of the vaginal opening. This internal architecture is crucial because it explains why certain positions and angles feel profoundly pleasurable. It is not because of some mysterious separate feature. It is because the internal walls of the vagina are surrounded by clitoral tissue. This is critically important because for far too long, women were told their bodies were difficult or finicky when in reality, no one was working with a complete anatomical map. Second, angle, which determines how effectively a position provides stimulation. The angle of penetration, the direction of movement, and the positioning of the pelvis fundamentally change which anatomical structures receive the most stimulation. A small shift in position, a slight change in hip angle, can mean the difference between ineffective stimulation and a position that is intensely pleasurable. Third, accessibility. The most anatomically perfect position is only useful if both partners can maintain it comfortably, communicate during it, and sustain it long enough for arousal to build and peak. Research on sexual positioning consistently shows that positions that allow for ease, comfort, and sustained engagement produce better outcomes for both partners than positions that are acrobatic, uncomfortable, or require constant adjustment. Now, let's talk about what actually enhances orgasmic response in women. The research is clear and consistent on one fundamental point. For the vast majority of women, clitoral engagement is essential. A large-scale 2017 study published in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, surveying over 1,000 women in the United States, found that only 18% of women reported that vaginal penetration alone was sufficient for orgasm. The overwhelming majority, with over 36% reporting that clitoral stimulation was absolutely necessary, and an additional 36% reporting that while penetration felt good, adding clitoral contact dramatically enhanced the experience. Read that again. Only 18%. Yet mainstream sexual scripts, media portrayals, and popular culture focus almost exclusively on penetration as the primary act. This is a fundamental mismatch between what science tells us and what most couples actually do. The practical implication is significant. Clitoral engagement should not be treated as optional foreplay. For the majority of women, it is the essential foundation of satisfying sexual experience. The first position that addresses this directly is the coital alignment technique, sometimes called CAT. This is a modification of traditional missionary positioning. The penetrating partner shifts their body slightly upward so that the base of the pelvis maintains consistent rhythmic pressure against the clitoral area, rather than moving in and out with traditional thrusting motions. The rocking motion, sustained pressure, and maintained contact create continuous clitoral stimulation throughout the encounter. Research spanning from the 1980s through recent replications has consistently shown that CAT significantly increases orgasm frequency compared to standard missionary positioning. The mechanism is straightforward. The position works with anatomy rather than against it. The angle and pressure directly engage clitoral tissue while maintaining the intimacy and emotional connection that many women value in missionary-style positioning. The second position is woman on top, also called cowgirl positioning. This position is remarkable because it places the receptive partner in control of the angle, depth, rhythm, and intensity of movement. This control is profound. She can position herself so that clitoral contact is maintained consistently. She can adjust if something doesn't feel right. She can control the pace to build arousal gradually. She can communicate in real time what feels best. Research consistently identifies woman on top as the position most frequently associated with orgasm for women, precisely because it provides this level of control and direct clitoral engagement. The neurological advantage is significant. When a person actively participates in creating their own pleasure rather than receiving stimulation passively, multiple brain regions activate simultaneously, including areas associated with motivation, reward, and pleasure. This active engagement amplifies the entire experience. From a practical standpoint, the receptive partner can angle their pelvis forward slightly to increase clitoral contact or backward to increase deeper penetration, depending on preference. Many women find this position allows them to reach orgasm more reliably because they maintain agency throughout. The third position worth discussing is rear entry positioning with elevated hips. When the receptive partner's hips are positioned higher than their shoulders, this naturally angles penetration toward the anterior vaginal wall, the front wall of the vagina. This positioning provides access to the internal clitoral structures and the sensitive tissue in this area that many women find intensely pleasurable. Research on anterior wall stimulation shows that this area, sometimes called the G-zone or G-spot region, contains nerve endings connected to internal clitoral tissue. When stimulated at the right angle, this area produces sensations that many women describe as distinctly different and highly pleasurable. The elevated hip positioning in rear entry makes this stimulation more accessible than many other positions. The key advantage is that this position naturally directs pressure toward the area, most likely to enhance pleasure for many women while maintaining the closeness and physical connection that many couples enjoy in rear entry positioning. The fourth position is supine with elevated hips. This involves the receptive partner lying on their back with a pillow or cushion positioned under the hips, elevating them slightly above the level of the shoulders. This elevation changes the angle of penetration significantly, directing stimulation toward the anterior vaginal wall while allowing face-to-face contact, kissing, and visual and emotional connection. The penetrating partner can maintain eye contact, provide touch to other areas of the body, and communicate easily throughout. This position combines the benefits of anterior wall access with the emotional intimacy of face-to-face positioning. Many couples find this position particularly satisfying because it provides physical pleasure while maintaining the psychological and emotional connection that enhances the entire experience. The fifth position is any position combined with manual or device-assisted clitoral stimulation. A comprehensive 2019 study in the Journal of Sexual Medicine found that couples who incorporated vibrator use or manual stimulation during partnered penetrative sex reported significantly higher satisfaction for both partners. This is not a replacement for position. It is an enhancement. Many women find that combining a position that provides some clitoral contact with additional manual or device stimulation creates the ideal combination. Either partner can provide this stimulation. Many couples find that incorporating a small vibrating device allows the receptive partner to control the intensity and focus, while the penetrating partner maintains penetration. The research strongly supports this approach. There is no shame, no embarrassment, and no need for hesitation. The evidence is unambiguous. This combination produces better outcomes for most women. Now I want to discuss something that is just as important as positioning itself. Many people focus entirely on technique and completely overlook the neurological foundations of arousal. The science reveals something essential. Unlike male arousal, which typically rises relatively quickly to a peak and resolves, female arousal, when properly cultivated, is characterized by a more gradual, sustained build with significantly greater capacity for intensity at the peak. Research from Dr. Barry Komisarek at Rutgers University, who used fMRI imaging to map brain activity during female orgasm, found that orgasm in women involves the activation of a remarkably large number of brain regions simultaneously. Areas associated with touch, emotion, memory, reward, sensation, and even pain regulation all activate together. But here's what's critical. The intensity and neurological richness of that response is directly correlated with the length and quality of the arousal phase that precedes it. In simpler terms, the longer and more attentively arousal is built before climax, the more powerful and satisfying the experience is. This is sometimes called arousal banking. Practically, this means that rushing, moving quickly from minimal contact to full penetration, neurologically shortchanges the experience. The brain and body have not had sufficient time to build the vascular engorgement, the nerve sensitivity, and the neurochemical accumulation that produces the most satisfying response. Clinical recommendation: extend the arousal phase deliberately. Give the body time. Alternate between different types of touch and stimulation. Build gradually, ease back slightly, then build again. This pattern of escalation and gentle deceleration increases arousal intensity significantly. The principle is this: more time, more intentionality, and more attentive presence during the arousal phase is not indulgence. It is physiology. It directly enhances the outcome you are aiming for. I need to address something crucial that directly impacts which positions feel good and which do not. The most powerful sexual organ in the human body is the brain. Research published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior has consistently found that cognitive distraction during sex is one of the primary predictors of sexual dissatisfaction in women. Women who frequently experience intrusive non-sexual thoughts during intimacy, worrying about their appearance, their performance, their body, their relationship, their to-do list, report significantly lower arousal and significantly lower rates of orgasm. This phenomenon is sometimes called spectatoring. It describes the experience of mentally stepping outside your own body to observe and evaluate yourself rather than being fully present in physical sensation. What actually helps? First, mindfulness-based approaches to intimacy. Research from the University of British Columbia, particularly the work of Dr. Lori Brotto, has demonstrated that mindfulness training, learning to bring deliberate, non-judgmental attention to present-moment physical sensations, significantly improves sexual arousal and satisfaction in women, including women experiencing clinically defined sexual dysfunction. Simple practices include focusing attention on breath during intimacy, noticing physical sensations with genuine curiosity rather than self-judgment, and gently redirecting your mind back to physical presence when it wanders. Second, reducing performance anxiety for both partners. When sex is approached as a performance with an outcome to achieve, a standard to meet, or a success or failure to be evaluated, the inhibitory system activates. When it is approached as exploration, as shared experience, as a form of play, the acceleratory system has room to operate. Third, real-time communication during intimacy. Research consistently shows that verbal communication, this feels amazing, a little slower right there, not only improves the physical experience, but actually increases psychological presence by keeping both partners engaged and responsive to each other in the moment. I want to spend a moment on something that is profoundly important and yet almost never discussed in the context of sexual positioning and technique. Communication is not the prelude to good sex. It is itself a form of intimate skill, and it is absolutely learnable. I've worked with couples who have been together for 20, 30, even 40 years, and have never, not once, had a direct conversation about what they each need or want sexually. Not because they don't care about each other, but because no one ever told them it was okay to have that conversation. Because vulnerability around sexuality feels risky. Because asking for what you want can feel like criticizing what your partner is already doing. But here's what the research tells us. A significant body of research in the Journal of Sex Research has found that sexual self-disclosure, openly communicating sexual preferences, desires, sensations, and feedback to a partner, was one of the strongest predictors of both sexual satisfaction and relationship satisfaction. For women specifically, feeling heard and responded to during intimacies was more predictive of overall satisfaction than any single physical variable. So how do you actually do this, especially if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar? Step 1. Start outside the bedroom. The worst time to have a vulnerable conversation is in the middle of an intimate moment when emotions and expectations are already heightened. Start the conversation over coffee, on a walk, somewhere relaxed and low stakes. I might say something like, "I've been thinking about our intimate life and I'd really love for us to talk about it. I want to know what feels best for you, what you enjoy most, what might feel even better." Step 2. Use curiosity, not critique. Frame everything as discovery and exploration, not judgment. Rather than saying you always do this, try saying I've noticed I feel most connected when we take more time at the beginning. Can we try that? Step 3. Affirm what works. Positivism is neurologically powerful. When something feels genuinely good, say so in real time. Yes, that or don't stop removes the guessing game and builds confidence and attunement for your partner. Step 4. Make it reciprocal. What would make this even better for you is one of the most intimate questions one partner can ask another. It communicates something profoundly important. Your experience matters to me. Your pleasure matters. Step 5. Normalize ongoing evolution. Bodies change, preferences evolve. What worked at 30 may not be what works at 45 or beyond. Sexual communication isn't a one-time conversation. It's an ongoing, evolving dialogue that healthy couples maintain across the lifespan of their relationship. I know this can feel awkward to start. It almost always does the first time. But I promise you, the couple that can talk about this openly, imperfectly, vulnerably will have a richer, more connected, and more satisfying intimate life than any amount of technique alone could produce. I want to address something important that directly impacts how different positions feel and what the body is capable of. Physical health and sexual response are inextricably linked. For women, hormonal changes, particularly the shifts that occur approaching menopause and during menopause, can significantly affect arousal, lubrication, sensitivity, and comfort with different positions. Declining estrogen affects vaginal tissue elasticity and moisture, which can make some positions uncomfortable or even painful. This is a real physiological change and it is treatable. If you are experiencing vaginal dryness, discomfort during sex, significantly reduced libido, or difficulty with arousal, please speak with your healthcare provider. There are evidence-based options including topical estrogen, systemic hormone therapy, and high-quality non-hormonal lubricants and moisturizers that can meaningfully improve comfort and response. Additionally, pelvic floor health directly affects sexual function and comfort with different positions. The pelvic floor muscles play an active role in pleasure and orgasmic response. Research shows that pelvic floor physical therapy, which addresses both hypertonic or too tight conditions and hypotonic or too weak conditions, can significantly improve both comfort and pleasure during sex. If any position causes pain, that is not something to accept or endure. It is a medical issue that deserves professional attention. You deserve comfortable, pleasurable intimacy in positions that feel good to your body. Please advocate for that with your healthcare provider. Let me bring all of this together. The 5 science-backed sex positions that enhance pleasure and orgasmic response for women are positioned on principles grounded in anatomy and neuroscience. First, the coital alignment technique, or CAT. This modified missionary position maintains consistent pressure against the clitoral area. The mechanism is direct clitoral engagement combined with the intimacy many women value in face-to-face positioning. Second, woman on top positioning. This gives the receptive partner control of angle, depth, rhythm, and pace while maintaining clitoral contact. The mechanism is active participation in creating pleasure combined with direct clitoral engagement and neurological reward activation. Third, rear entry with elevated hips. This naturally angles penetration toward the anterior vaginal wall and internal clitoral structures. The mechanism is access to sensitive tissue combined with maintained physical connection. Fourth, supine with elevated hips. This combines anterior wall access with face-to-face intimacy, eye contact, kissing, and easy communication. The mechanism is pleasure plus emotional connection simultaneously. Fifth, any position combined with manual or device-assisted clitoral stimulation. The mechanism is optimization of clitoral engagement combined with flexibility and control. Across all 5 positions, the common principle is this: work with anatomy, maintain or enhance clitoral contact, allow for communication and comfort, extend the arousal phase, remove performance pressure, approach intimacy with presence and curiosity. None of these require anything extraordinary. They require information, intention, and a willingness to show up differently in your intimate life. The orgasm gap is real. The research is unambiguous. It has been explained away as women being complicated or mysterious when the actual explanation is far simpler and far more solvable. It's an information gap, it's an anatomy gap, it's a positioning gap, and all of those things can be changed. Whether you're watching this as a woman who has experienced inconsistent pleasure or has wondered why certain positions don't work the way you hoped, you are not broken. You were never given the right information, and now you have some of it. Whether you're watching as a partner who wants to genuinely understand how your bodies work together and show up more effectively, the fact that you're here watching this entire video says something real about the kind of partner you want to be. Sexual health is health. Pleasure is not a luxury. It is a legitimate, important, science-supported dimension of human well-being and relational satisfaction. You deserve to take it seriously. You deserve positions and practices that work with your body rather than against it. If this video gave you something useful, a new understanding of positioning, confidence about communication, a sense of relief that these are solvable issues with clear answers, please give it a like. It helps this information reach more people who need it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment below. I want to know what position information surprised you most or what question you still have about creating more satisfying, intimate experiences. I read every comment, and your questions and insights shape my future content. I'm Dr. Rosy Adams. Take care of your body, take care of your relationships, and remember, understanding is always the beginning of change. I'll see you in the next one.